personally, Mass Effect means a lot to me. Like we say, when we create something, we put it out, it is like, you know, putting your own child out there, right? That feeling still exists. I mean, eventually I'll move on to another IP, I'm sure, eventually. And I had the choice even previous to this, right? But for now, Mass Effect, it's too special to me, and it's too important, I think, to RPGers in the gaming community. I mean, who wouldn't take that opportunity to do that, right?
There are a few franchises that have been able to leave a footprint on the culture of video games as prominent as Mass Effect has. The original trilogy reveled in meticulous details, depicting fascinating alien cultures, political strife, and interspecies tensions, with complex and memorable characters driving the narrative.
For a generation of gamers like me, Mass Effect is our Star Trek. It's our Doctor Who, our Star Wars. But as with all major fandoms, Mass Effect is not without its controversies.
The original trilogy was built on choice and consequence. It promised players that each of their actions, however big or small, would have ramifications on the outcome of the story. And across 3 games spanning over 100 hours, it lived up to that promise.
Right up until its final moments. In Mass Effect 3, as the curtains drew to a close and players took the final steps on their journey, the game jettisoned the characterization and storytelling nuances that had defined the series.
For some fans, these final moments have marked the legacy of the series as strongly as everything BioWare achieved in the hours preceding them. But now, with Mass Effect Andromeda, the studio is leaving Commander Shepard and the Milky Way behind. For both the characters in the game and the people making it, Andromeda is about venturing into the unfamiliar in hopes of finding a new beginning. In this 2-part series looking at the development of Mass Effect Andromeda, we travelled to PAX East in Boston just days before the game's launch. There we'd talk to BioWare about the series and its newest entry. In episode 1, we're going to look at the impact of the original trilogy and the controversy surrounding its ending, before delving into the future BioWare hopes to build for the series in episode 2.
This is the story of Mass Effect Andromeda.
Mass Effect launched in 2007, a year filled with landmark titles, the influence of which are still seen in the games of today. It was a year in which Call of Duty 4 redefined first-person shooters for the modern age. BioShock enraptured us with a thought-provoking commentary on player agency, and Nintendo reminded us of the pure joy gaming can inspire with Super Mario Galaxy.
So yeah, 2007 was a momentous year, with the sheer brilliance of these blockbusters dwarfing all but the most groundbreaking releases. And amongst it all, there was one title that really stood out from the crowd.
It was a game that, while not perfect, showed immense ambition. It blurred genre lines by marrying deep role-playing with third-person shooting to create an experience that felt steeped in history but was also forward-thinking. But beyond that, it delivered an intricate sci-fi universe on a scale that had previously only been seen in PC MMOs, and it did so with uncompromising attention to detail. The first Mass Effect laid the foundations for BioWare's narrative aspirations, establishing alien races, exploring their cultures, and interweaving complex political tensions between them. It was a game that invited players to connect with characters on a human level, to learn about their history, their hopes, their fears, and consider them throughout. The investment people had in these characters was leveraged for emotionally charged moments, in which decisions could decide the fate of a friend or even the future of a species. Mass Effect promoted choice to ensure players felt they weren't just experiencing a story, but were writing their own.
World building on this scale and characterization of this nuance are perhaps the most enduring part of its legacy. For me and thousands of others, each Mass Effect game stirred a childlike wonder, the type that pierces through reality to make you believe in Hogwarts, the Force, or the plight of the Browncoats.
And for the people working on Andromeda, many of which joined BioWare as fans and are newcomers to developing Mass Effect, it was no different.
So I bought Mass 1 on launch day, and you know, I'd always wanted a massive space opera type RPG to play. It changed how I looked at sci-fi video games. The amount of inspiration that I drew from being able to meet all these new aliens for the first time in a galaxy, I think was awesome. That was the major thing, really feeling like you were telling a human story, but in this brand new area of all these different species I had never met before. It kind of invoked a lot of the feelings I had with Star Wars and properties like that before.
The scale was definitely impressive. Like, not just the physical scale, the amount of places you could go, although yes, that was cool too, but the sense of like, no, this is a whole galaxy you can actually explore that has been around a while, and like, you have an important part to play, but this universe exists without you. It has its own history and characters have their thing going on. And I like that even if you remember the intro to Mass Effect 1, at the beginning, you're a big deal in your own right, but you're not the Grand High King of everything. Like, no, you were second. Someone else is captain of the ship at the beginning. I just thought that was really cool.
So I was sick the weekend I picked up ME1, played it in about 2 days, picked up one disc, put ME2 in, and just kept going. So it very quickly consumed me and the fascination with it, and it really changed the way I viewed games also as a player, being like, oh, I'll try something new, and then realizing, wow, this is an experience in games I'd never previously, engaged with.
Probably one of the more powerful moments to me, if I remember correctly, it was the moment with Legion, when you could either choose whether he would die or I think it was Tali would die. And that to me was gut-wrenching because both of those characters I loved. And I remember playing it through the one time, and then I think Legion died. I'm like, no, this is wrong. And then go back, load the save again, play it through, then Tali died the next time, and I'm like, I can't do it.
That moment when you can actually explore the Uncharted world, they're kind of gated at the beginning, and suddenly you land with your clumsy Mako and you go around, but it doesn't matter, the execution doesn't matter because it awakes something in you about the sheer curiosity and discovery. But you realize after, when you keep playing the trilogy, that feeling of curiosity, the will to discover, actually applies to people, to the other character, and this is what Mass Effect 2 explores, etc. And this is, so for me, the definition of Mass Effect at a personal level starts there. That little childhood sparkle that sort of lights in you and say, oh, I just want to explore that. And then you want to explore relationship, and then you want to explore something else.
But the Mass Effect series is not without its flaws, and for some, the concluding chapter of the trilogy brought the series to an unsatisfactory close. Players had poured themselves into the series and charted a path for the narrative that felt unique and personal to them. They made the universe their own, but in its final moments, their impact felt diminished.
BioWare faced a difficult challenge. To finish the trilogy, it needed to exert its own authorship over a narrative that, until then, had largely been guided by player decisions. And in doing so, it had to wrap up the trilogy in a way that accounted for all those decisions, arguably an impossible task. BioWare's solution was to offer 3 resolutions that, together, provided an end to the broader narrative, but failed to properly pay off the many relationships players had cultivated over the series. The response to the ending was resounding, with aggrieved fans letting BioWare know of their displeasure through various grassroots movements and social networks.
It was a lot of pressure on us, and we put a lot of time and love into tying off those story threads. But you never know, right? You never know. What we think is like, oh, that's gonna nail it, that's gonna be awesome, everyone's gonna love this. Some people might not, and you don't really know until you put the game out.
As we've seen in the past, we generate a lot of passion from our fans. And ultimately, you need to take that as a reward, right? People care about what you do, but you need to accept that passion goes both ways.
It really felt like it ended, and like I said, had the ending, gone off a little bit more smoothly, I think we would have really personally, emotionally had that closure a bit more. But as far as saying goodbye to the characters and the world, I'd kind of already done that. I felt like I'd done that through the process of just putting that out there and developing it, right?
Oh, we weren't happy. We weren't happy because this was our baby as much as it was anyone else's, right? Wanting to send it off and make it, the satisfying thing that people wanted. But as time went on, and as things died down a little bit, and we look back, and we continued with some of the DLC in the Citadel, we're still very, very proud of it. We're still very happy with what we did. And I think it set the stage for the future, because it formalized for us that Shepard's story was done, and that we told all we wanted to tell in that universe. So it kind of prompted us to look forward and say, okay, well, what's next for Mass Effect?
In light of the controversy, the studio released the Extended Cut DLC to address some of the plot holes fans raised as problematic and explore the aftermath of the final decision further. But by this time, fan sentiment had solidified. This outcry of disappointment shifted the focus away from what Mass Effect 3 and the series had achieved across 3 games. The discussion became fixated on the broad strokes that outlined the narrative, instead of the finer details that coloured it. To quote GameSpot's review, Mass Effect 3 was a game about saving the galaxy, but a galaxy is just a thing, an idea, an abstract, a meaningless collection of plutinos, planets, and pulsars. Mass Effect is actually about saving people. And there's a big difference there.
That difference was buried under the controversy, and like it or not, it's the starting point for Andromeda.
600 years after that fateful conversation with the Catalyst, Mass Effect is moving on from Shepard, beyond the Milky Way and the characters and stories that were contained within it. For the people that created and shepherded the original trilogy to its conclusion, Andromeda is a second attempt at realizing ambitions that fell to the wayside the first time around.
The interesting thing is that Mass Effect Andromeda, even though it's the 4th in the series, is really, like I've said it several times, it's a new start, but it was a new start on a new engine, it's a new console cycle, it's a new team, and so more so than any of the games since Mass Effect 1, this one feels like it's got all those things that we wish we could have done because we were really doing them for the first time.
But what ended up happening is that living up to Mass Effect does not make things easier, right? So yes, it's well defined, but also we wanted, of course, to, moving to Andromeda, bringing new races and everything. But it's the constant reminder that Mass Effect means something to the fans. And as much as you want to move that game forward, if you don't deliver what people expect in a Mass Effect game, it doesn't matter. And for me, as much as it's a constant pressure on us, it's a good pressure that keeps us going, and that's where I take my energy. So my experience with Mass Effect is less about the game itself and more about what it means for so many people and how that translates into our fuel, if you want, right?
If you go to the PAX show floor tomorrow, you will see tons of Mass Effect cosplay. You will see hundreds of people who care desperately about the franchise. Most other developers can't say that they have a magic like that built into their fan base. So they kind of lift us up, right? It's them who make the possibilities for the future. It's not, us or the money or anything like that.
While the old guard ensures that the soul of Mass Effect is enshrined, it's BioWare's new blood that is attempting to redefine its identity for a new generation.
Fans are at the heart of Mass Effect, and in episode 2 of this series, we'll be talking to the developers that admired the franchise from the outside, but who are now charting its future from within.
Huh?